If your weeks feel so chaotic that fitness just disappears from your calendar, I totally get it. But the truth is, you do not have to choose between growing in your business or advancing in your career and still finding time to take care of yourself. And in fact, that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. My name is Brian Pickowitz. I'm one of the head coaches and co-founders here at the Fitness Project, where we focus on building fit and healthy leaders. And today I want to show you the 3 habits that you have to leverage during your busiest seasons of life so you can still get fit, be healthy, and perform your best in your business or your career. Now, before we start, one of the things I want to touch upon is understanding the season that you're in. Oftentimes we think that what worked in the past has to be what we have to do right now in order for us to make progress. The only challenge is different seasons require different strategies. So what you used to do in your 20s to get fit or get lean is probably not going to work in your 40s. Not because your body has changed, but because your life looks different. And so oftentimes what I see people do is they have this mindset that keeps them stuck and doesn't allow them to make progress because they think, oh my gosh, in order for me to lose weight, I have to be working out 6 days a week. Or in order for me to get lean, I need to package up every single meal. And quite frankly, if you're a business owner or you're an executive, someone who is advancing in their career, you don't have time for that, especially if you have kids. Now, a lot of our clients are people who are building their business or they're advancing in their career and they have a family. So what we're constantly doing is looking at first, what season of life are you in and what strategy do you need? And this is the most important thing I want to share here when it comes to knowing what season you're in and what strategy you need. If you're in a busy season, you need a strategy that works for your busy season. But you don't need to say, I'm going to wait until things get easier. In fact, that's one of the worst beliefs that you can hold on to. Because if you're a high performer and you're waiting for the summer, or you're waiting for things to slow down, we both know that something is going to fill that space, irregardless of whether or not you're stressed or chaotic or busy or overwhelmed. We always find something to do to keep advancing, or we even find something that we enjoy, right? During the summer, we're more, let's say, present with those we care about, or we're celebrating more. So during those seasons, even though we technically have less focus on business, we don't necessarily have more time. So you have to be able to say, okay, the season that I'm in is where I have to start from. And so if you're in that busy season, this has to be where you actually start prioritizing yourself. Now, with that said, what do? Well, the first thing we have to do, the first habit we have to build is we have to build a powerful keystone habit. And to illustrate the power of a keystone habit, I want to share a quick little story with you. A few years ago, I was reading this article in Success Magazine, and it was about this CEO who had this yearly habit of dropping anywhere between 5 to 15 pounds during the spring as the summer came along. And they were interviewing him and they said, well, what is your routine? Like, what do you eat? What's your diet like? What's your training routine like? And he said, the interesting thing that happens every year around this time is I simply take the cream out of my coffee. That was a really interesting thing to the reporter. And they said, okay, tell me more. What do you mean you take the cream out of your coffee? He said, well, when I take the cream out of my coffee every morning, that cues my brain to know that we're in the diet phase. This is time to lean down. And so by taking the cream out of my coffee, I'm more conscious of what I put in my body. I don't overeat as much. I take the stairs when I get to work. I drink a bottle of water at my desk. And those habits stack so that by the end of the day, I've done the other behaviors that help me lose weight, and it makes it much easier for me to stay focused on that goal. And so what this article really illustrates is the power of a keystone habit. And a keystone habit is the one small habit that builds into the other bigger ones. And so if you're busy in this season of life, you have to have a morning keystone habit or some other keystone habit in your day that habitually reminds you to be healthy. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot of time. It can be very minimal effort. But we have to have some way to train our brain to say, hey, it still matters that I'm healthy. It still matters that I take care of myself. For example, my keystone habit on my busiest work weeks is not to go train. It's not to go and meal prep everything. In fact, I wake up and I take a cold shower. I wake up, I take a cold shower, and then I drink a bottle of water. Those habits take maybe 3 minutes, but that cold water gives me this rush. I'm automatically awake, and the water that I'm drinking helps my digestive system. So I'm already in the lane of health. From there, I will try to take maybe a 5 or 10-minute walk, but those simple habits take less than 5 minutes for me to get in the lane of health. So for you, it might be waking up and stretching. It might be waking up and going for a walk. One of my clients, for example, he's always traveling. He's always on the road. He runs this big sales company, and he is in hotel after hotel after hotel. So I said, hey, what's something you can do? It takes 2 minutes. I said, all right, I can always take a cold shower. Awesome. Let's do that every morning. So for you, you need to figure out what is your keystone habit that you can lean on during your busy season so you can remember, hey, regardless of what's happening, I need to be healthy. I need to take care of myself. So the first habit is having that keystone habit. The second habit is to lean into fasting. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than maybe what you've heard about fasting in the past, but one of the most advantageous things you can do when it comes to your health and fitness is actually not addition, it's subtraction. So there's all this information about what we should eat and how we should work out and all the different things that we should be doing. But for most people, the most advantageous thing they can do is stop doing the things that are sabotaging their progress. The most important thing you can learn about health is that your body's natural state is to be healthy. Your body wants to feel good. It naturally regulates itself. It is a machine that works best when there's not a whole lot of garbage in it. And so if you just think of it from that standpoint, that you are almost a blank slate, the best thing you can do for your body is not put garbage in it. And so if you're someone who is in a high performing season of life, you need to lean into fasting. And fasting simply means consciously going without. So for example, that might mean consciously going out without alcohol, right? If you're a high performer, drinking a bottle of wine on a Wednesday or a Tuesday to come down, or even on a Thursday for that matter, is not dialing into the season of life that you're in. You need to be focused. You need to be aggressively moving towards your target. And alcohol is the antithesis of what you need. But that might also be fasting from Oreos or ice cream or candy, right? It's the conscious choice to go without that is actually going to allow you to feel better. I know for myself, I don't have a whole lot of food rules because I have a healthy relationship with food. So at this season of life, I can have ice cream, I can have candy, I can have self-discipline and self-control. But I know if I bring those foods into my house, I'm going to overeat on them because they're there. And so I fast from keeping them in my house. I don't bring Oreos, I don't bring cookies, I don't bring nacho chips. Those are things that I consciously choose to go without. And those give me the energy on my busy days. And so just by making that simple decision to remove some of those foods, I'm automatically 5 steps ahead because I know that I'm not going to be sabotaging my progress. Now, in addition to fasting, I do find that intermittent fasting gives me more cognitive energy. I personally do not eat for the first 4 to 6 hours of the day, right? I'm filming this video. It's about 11 a.m. I haven't eaten today because I know that if I have fasted, I have a better, let's say, cognitive ability to think clearly and attack problems. And then usually what I'll do is I'll have a meal around noontime that is high in protein, high in fat, low in carbohydrates. So something like 2 or 3 eggs with a little bit of cheese or avocado and greens. Now, if you're someone who that doesn't work for, right? Maybe you don't have the relationship with food that allows you to feel like, hey, I can cut my window down and not think it's time to overindulge, or maybe there's some other things you find out, hey, fasting isn't really best for me. That's perfectly fine. But you can still choose to fast from the things that hold you back. And that's the important message. So if the first thing we want to do is build a keystone habit, the second thing we want to do is we want to fast. We want to remove the things that cause us to fall off track. The third thing we have to do to stay healthy during our busiest seasons is we need to prioritize rest and sleep. Now, oftentimes people will say, well, what's the most important thing for me to do when I'm trying to get healthy? Should I work out like this or should I diet like this? And what I have found over the last decade of coaching high performers is that the most important habit for your health, if you're really feeling low energy, you're really feeling behind, is to make sure you're sleeping. right? And we know this, right? Our brain repairs itself during rest. And if you're someone who is not sleeping, that's actually impeding your abilities to make decisions. In fact, there was one study that came out of the University of Pennsylvania recently that showed that someone who went 2 weeks with less than 6 hours of sleep per day performed just as poorly on a cognitive test as someone who was legally drunk. So you have to think, if you're sleeping less than 6 hours a night, who's your team getting? Are you really showing up at your best? And are you going to be able to make the best decisions to not only perform, not only to lead, but to be healthy? What I know about myself and what I've seen with a lot of clients is when they do not sleep adequately, there is a sense of willpower depletion, right? So the desire to stay on the path that gets you results, it drops a little bit. And so if you're living in that low performance state because you're not rested, you're not sleeping, what's it going to mean in the long run? And now we also know that a reduction of sleep leads to cancer, leads to heart issues, leads to chronic stress. So before you think, how do I go and wake up at 4 a.m. and go push this workout? Maybe the thing you need to do is sleep, is rest. And if you do that, you'll probably find that you have more energy to get the workout in. You'll probably find that your decisions are better throughout the day, and that it's easier for you to make the results that you want come to fruition. So let me know in the comment section which of these 3 habits you need to focus on more. Is it building a better morning routine, a keystone habit that allows you to have energy, allows you to have focus? Is it fasting a little bit more? Is it removing some of the junk food or cutting out alcohol, or just deciding, hey, I'm going to start off my day without putting garbage in me? Right? What is the thing you have to fast from? Or 3, is it starting to increase your sleep levels so you can have more cognitive ability and start to perform and feel your best? Let me know in the comment section. And again, thank you for being here. My name is Brian Pickowitz. We build fit and healthy leaders. So make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can learn more tips and tricks about how you can optimize your fitness and health, irregardless of how busy or stressed you may feel. Cheers.